Have you ever really, truly thought about walking? I mean, it's something most of us do thousands of times a day, completely on autopilot. But hiding in plain sight is this absolute marvel of engineering. It's a complex, perfectly coordinated dance of muscles, bones, and forces. So today, we're going to dive in and unpack the incredible story that's hidden inside just a single step.
But first, to really get this, I want you to flip your perspective on its head. Think about this. What if walking isn't really about moving forward, but it's actually about constantly catching yourself from falling? Every single step you take is a tiny loss of balance, a controlled fall that your body expertly catches and then converts into forward motion. It's just this continuous cycle of falling and recovering, over and over. So how exactly does our body pull that off?
Well, the basic building block of all this is what scientists call the Gait cycle. The easiest way to think about it is like one complete sentence in the story of how you move. It starts the very second your heel hits the ground, and it ends the next time that same heel hits the ground again. Everything, and I mean everything we're about to talk about, happens inside this one little loop.
Now, every gait cycle, this whole story, can be broken down into two main acts. It's like a simple play in two parts. You've got the stance phase, and you've got the swing phase. That's it. Every step you take is just your body switching back and forth between these two.
So what's the difference? It's pretty straightforward, actually. The stance phase is when your foot is planted on the ground. It's doing all the heavy lifting, supporting your entire body weight. Then you've got the swing phase. That's when that same foot is up in the air, totally off the ground, just swinging forward to get ready for the next step. So one's all about support, and the other is all about advancement.
And this is where it gets interesting. You might think it's a 50-50 split, right? But nope. We actually spend about 60% of the entire cycle in the stance phase, with our foot on the ground, and only 40% in the swing phase. And that tells you something really important about walking. Our bodies prioritize stability and support above all else.
Okay, so let's zoom in a little closer now. Inside those two big phases are 8 distinct events, a super precise sequence that makes up one single, elegant step. Let's take that journey together, moment by moment.
So here's our roadmap. You can see the first 5 events all happen during that stance phase, when we're on the ground. And the last 3? Those happen during the swing phase, while we're in the air. We're going to walk through every single one, from the second our foot touches down to the moment right before it does it all over again.
All right, chapter 1 begins right here, with initial contact. For most of us, this is the heel strike. It's that very first moment of connection with the ground. Your leg is out in front, perfectly positioned to start taking on the entire weight of your body. Right after that first touch comes the loading response. This moment is so critical. All your body weight just rapidly shifts onto that front foot, and you'll notice your knee and ankle bend just a little bit. Why? Well, they're acting like a spring, absorbing the shock of that controlled fall we talked about. This is your body's built-in suspension system, and it's kicking into gear.
Next, we just kind of glide through mid-stance and into what's called terminal stance. At this point, your entire body is basically vaulting over your planted foot. Your center of mass is at its highest point, and as you keep moving forward, your heel just naturally starts to lift off the ground, getting ready for the big push.
And that brings us to pre-swing. This is the grand finale of the stance phase. This is our engine room. Your calf muscles fire up, your ankle pushes down, and you literally propel yourself forward. This is the push-off, and it's what generates most of your forward momentum, right as your other foot is beginning its own initial contact.
And with that push, we're airborne. We've officially entered the swing phase. And you know what the main goal is here? It's beautifully simple. Get your foot from the back to the front without tripping over it. Your knee bends a whole lot, and your ankle pulls your toes up, all to make absolutely sure your foot clears the ground as it swings through. And finally, we hit terminal swing. Think about a pendulum reaching the end of its arc. Your leg starts to slow down. Your hamstrings fire up to pump the brakes. Your knee straightens out, and your foot gets positioned just right. To do what? To make the next initial contact, starting this whole 8-step journey all over again. It's a perfect loop. So, we've covered the sequence of events, right? But what about the forces that are actually driving all this? You know, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Every time you push on the ground pushes right back. Let's take a look at what that hidden force actually looks like.
And this chart shows it perfectly. It's this classic double hump curve you see in biomechanics. That first peak, that's the impact force, right as you land. It's your body hitting the brakes. The valley in the middle happens during mid-stance as you're smoothly gliding over your foot. And that second peak, the higher one, that's the good stuff. That's the propulsive force from your push-off, launching you into your next step.
All of these forces pushing and pulling mean that your body's center of mass, which is roughly around your hips, moves in this really smooth, gentle, wave-like path. It dips down when both your feet are on the ground, and it rises up to its highest point right in the middle of a step. And you know, the smoothness of that wave is actually a key sign of an efficient, healthy way of walking.
So what's actually creating this smooth motion and managing all these crazy forces? Well, it's the incredibly coordinated work of your three main leg joints. Let's break down the specific job that each one has in this intricate little dance.
Your hip really acts as the main engine, kind of like the pivot point for a big pendulum. It starts in a bent position. Then, as your body moves forward over your foot, the hip straightens all the way out. And then during the swing phase, it bends again to powerfully pull your whole leg forward for the next step. Simple as that.
The knee, on the other hand, is the master of adaptation. It's our #1 shock absorber, bending right after impact to cushion that load. And during the swing phase, it bends a lot. And that bend is absolutely essential. It effectively shortens your leg, making sure your toes don't scrape along the ground as you swing through.
And finally, we have the ankle. And this guy might just be the most complex actor in the whole show. First, it works to get your foot flat on the ground. Then it acts like a rocker, letting your shin move forward. Then it gives you that powerful push-off for propulsion. And then it immediately pulls your toes back up to stop you from tripping during the swing. It's doing pretty much everything.
So when you put all of this together, the phases, the events, the forces, the joint motions, the whole shebang, you get something incredibly personal. You get a pattern of movement that is as unique to you as your own fingerprint, your Gait signature.
And analysts measure this signature using a few key numbers. Cadence is just your rhythm, how many steps you take per minute. Step length is the distance from one foot to the next. Stride length is one full gait cycle, from your right heel to your right heel again. And when you combine your cadence and your step length, well, that gives you your walking speed. These are the core stats that define how you walk.
So, why does any of this matter? Because your walk is basically a window into your body's overall health. Analyzing these patterns is an incredibly powerful tool. Any little deviation from these smooth, symmetrical patterns can be the very first sign of an injury, a muscle imbalance, or even some underlying neurological condition. Bottom line, a healthy walk is a smooth walk.
So there you have it. We've gone through the entire intricate story of one single step, from that controlled fall at the beginning all the way to that propulsive push at the end. We've seen the hidden forces and the beautiful, coordinated dance of your joints. So the next time you're out for a walk, just for a moment, pay attention to it. Now that you know the story of a step, you can ask yourself, what story is my walk telling?